2, 1.
How have you provided for a differentiated instruction of part of a lesson? Explain how your differentiation strategies work.
Okay, well, that's a very good question because my most recent teaching experience had a huge range, meaning I had students who had just entered the United States without a word of English, all the way up through to students who I had one who skipped a grade and was gifted, so they were far beyond their grade level. I have 5 students with IEPs for learning support, and all told, I had 7 who were English language learners. So the range was tremendous, and the only thing I could do was differentiate. So I tried a lot of strategies until I figured out what worked and how I could present content to such a range of knowledge, skills, and understanding. So I did not differentiate content, but I did a lot of differentiation on process and product. So for example, I would always start by pre-assessing. So I need to know where they're coming from on the topic. And I prefer to do my pre-assessments in an informal way. And in this one example, the objectives are cross-disciplinary, so science and writing. And this is a science objective on adaptation in the environment. Now, I know that students, especially in first, second, third grade, love animals, so there's a hook there. And so the project was to have them understand adaptations in the environment by giving them a project which had an open-ended product. So first, for pre-assessment, I asked for a KWL chart, Know, Wonder, Learn. So what do we already know about animals and their habitats? And I guess unsurprisingly, a lot of students, even the higher academic students, didn't know what the word habitat was. There's a lot of wonderings about why certain animals live in certain habitats. And so from the pre-assessment, I knew that everybody needed some academic vocabulary. So they needed the word environment, adapt, habitat, relationship, camouflage, things like that. So I planned the lesson, the content according to, by pacing by what materials needed to be covered and what the gaps were. Then I made flexible groupings, so where they could work together with partners according to their areas of interest. And next, provided some higher order thinking questions, especially for those students who were ready for the higher order thinking questions, such as how do you think this animal survives? How has their environment changed? And also at this level, you have some readers and some pre-readers. So I had to allow them to access the information either through written material to present a final product about their animal, and whereas others were going to listen to it. So through audiobooks like Found in Epic, there are books on every kind of animal imaginable and their environment. So I had to scaffold the lesson, so I provided sentence stems for some of the students that needed, my animal is blank, their habitat is, whereas other students didn't need sentence stems. Higher level students were able to go to a choice board when they were finished the must do. And then the final product was independent. So they could create an animal habitat diorama, a poster, a model, a piece of writing. So that allowed differentiation in product as well as process.
Thank you. What strategies might you use to help a student who has difficulty listening and being attentive?
Oh, well, I have experienced a lot of students like that, and I have learned how to break it down. But the first thing that has worked every time is they need to sit close to the teacher. So proximity is very important for those students. So they're usually the ones closest to my desk. Second, I have to kind of observe which part of the attention is difficult for them. So if it's hard for them to get motivated to learn, then I would start with a good book, a story, even sometimes a joke or a video or a personal connection, so they can engage with the material, get excited to learn. If they have trouble getting started on a task, then I can offer timers or rewards. A lot of times, the first one to have their book open, their pencil out, and finish sentence number 1 gets a star or a check or whatever. If they have trouble staying on task, then I break it down. After you finish 3 questions, come to me. I'll check it, give you a star or praise. If they have trouble completing, then it's reducing all the distractions. Sometimes, would you like to finish the second half of your work in the back table by yourself where it's quieter? Or let's have a timer. Can you finish the last 3 questions within 5 minutes? And again, if it's a completion issue, then if it's relevant, you can shorten the work, only if it's relevant. Work with parental reinforcement. So have your parent check that you completed it. Every Friday we'll go through and see that you completed all these assignments, writing out schedules. So basically, students with this difficulty need a lot more structure and chunking things up.
Thank you. What are the essential elements of a good classroom management plan?
Okay, so there's a lot of elements, but it obviously starts on, before you begin your class. So as a teacher, I have all the routines and procedures written out, envisioned in my mind. When we start class, we talk about expectations and what they think the rules should be. The rules usually turn out very simple. There's only 3 rules about respecting each other and materials, listening and following directions, and keeping hands, feet, and object to yourself. Then I model the behaviors that I expect. I get feedback from them. Then they model it. Then we practice, feedback, practice. So it's an ongoing process throughout the year. That's one part. Then having exact procedures and routines for everything from, distributing notebooks to handing in homework. I find that transitions are where a lot of time gets lost, so we will practice transitions, time transitions. I've even done plotting them on a graph when we were studying graphing, so we can see if our time in transitions is improving. Another element of the plan is positive notes to parents. I have positive postcards that say your child did this today, that was excellent. And that's definitely not only for the typically good behaving kids, because even kids with challenging behavior will do 1 or 2 things that's good that day. Of course, personal connections earns trust and respect. Being consistent with classroom rules and policies. And then I also have students and parents both sign, knowing exactly what the rules and consequences are, and the consequences don't change, and they're predetermined. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have the job?